students, welcome to lecture number 10, where we will be seeing module number 3 under subject Indirect Taxation. So we were dealing with module number 3, which is time and value of supply. So under this module, as we know that we have to see time of supply, which we have already covered in lecture number 8 and 9. And then we have to also see the change in the rate of tax in respect of supply of goods or services, place of supply, value of supply, and simple problems on time, place, and value of supply. So today we will be revising again the time of supply and we'll be continuing with the problems on time of supply. So what is time of supply, students? Again, to repeat, time of supply is the point in time where the liability to pay tax arises. So we have seen time of supply in case of goods as well as services. So under goods, the time of supply is different for different categories. That is under forward charge, the time of supply is different. Under reverse charge, vouchers exchangeable for goods, residual cases, and addition in value, the time of supply differs depending upon which category the transaction falls in. Time of supply of services again is different under forward charge, reverse charge, vouchers exchangeable for services, residual cases, and addition in value. Forward charge is where the supplier is liable to pay tax. Reverse charge is where the recipient is liable to pay tax. Vouchers are nothing but they are hampers that is given against which you can redeem any goods or services. It has been provided by the supplier. Residual cases is in case none of the provisions are applicable or you are able to determine, you're not able to determine any of the time of supply under forward charge, reverse charge, or vouchers, then you need to apply this residual case. And addition in value is nothing but the extra amount collected over and above the normal consideration, that is either in the form of interest, penalty, late fee. So quickly revising, students, time of supply of goods and services under forward charge. Forward charge is nothing but where the supplier collects the tax amount from the recipient and pays it to the government. So we know that time of supply for goods under forward charge is different under time of supply under forward charge is different for goods as well as services. So what is the time of supply in case if it is goods? It is the earliest of the following dates. Which are the two dates you need to compare? Is the date of issue of invoice by the supplier or the last date by which he is required to issue the invoice under section 31. So which is the last date? It is determined as per section 31. So section 31 tells us that if it is goods, you have to check whether there is a movement of goods or there is no movement of goods. If it is a movement of goods, the last date to issue the invoice will be the date when the goods are being removed. And where there is no movement of goods, then the date in which the goods are delivered. So that will be the last date to issue the invoice. You need to check this particular date and the date on which the supplier receives the payment. Only two dates needs to be checked in case of forward charge. In case of goods, that is date of issue of invoice and the date on which the supplier receives the payment. Now, how do you determine what is the date for receipt of payment? Now, receipt of payment can be either earlier of two dates, either the amount is being credited. How do you determine what is the date in which the supplier receiving the payment? It can either be the date on which the amount is credited in the supplier's bank account or the date in which the entry of that payment is made in the books of accounts of the supplier. So when he's making an entry of the payment received in his books, either that date or the date the amount is credited in the bank account, whichever falls earlier, that will be the date of payment. Now, time of supply of goods.
Ma'am,
Uh, yes.
ma'am, some students are waiting, ma'am.
Okay. I can't see anyone waiting here. Okay. Okay, students. Then in case of services, it is the earliest of the following three dates. In case of services under forward charge, you have to compare three dates. You have to not compare three dates, you have to see under which category the particular time of supply provision has to be applied. So if the invoice is issued within the prescribed period, then it is the date of issue of invoice by the supplier. If the invoice is issued within the prescribed period, students, what is the prescribed period as per, in case of services as per section 31 is within or after 30 days from the date of issue of invoice. You have to raise the invoice within 30 days from the date of providing the services. You have to issue the invoice. So that is, if you are doing that, you are issuing the invoice within the prescribed period. In that case, it will be date of issue of invoice or the date of payment, whichever is earlier. Then in case the invoice is not issued within the prescribed period, that means after providing the services within 30 days, you are supposed to issue the invoice. Suppose within this period you are not issuing the invoice, then the time of supply will be the date of provision of service or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Now suppose if you're not able to ascertain these both, then it will be date on which the supplier receives the payment. Suppose if you're not able to ascertain the date of issue of invoice or the date of provision, then you need, the time of supply will be the date on which the supplier receives the payment. Now when I say receives the payment, means either the date on which the payment is credited in the bank account or the date on which the supplier is recording such payment received in his books of account. Whichever is earlier will be the date of payment. Now, time of supply of goods and services under reverse charge. So under reverse charge, the recipient is liable to pay tax. So in case of goods, it is earliest of the following three dates: the date of receipt of goods, when the goods are being received. Under reverse charge, remember students, the recipient is liable to pay tax, that is the purchaser. So the date on which the goods are received by the recipient or the date on which the payment is made by the recipient. Now again, date of payment will be the date on which the amount is debited in the banks of accounts of the recipient, or the date on which the recipient is recording such payment in his books of account, or 30 days from the date of invoice issued by the supplier. So earlier of these three dates will be the time of supply in case of goods. In case of services, you have to check whether it is associated enterprise or other than associated enterprise. So we had seen other than associated enterprise. In case of associated enterprise, it is earlier of two dates, that is the date of entry in the books of accounts of the recipient or date of payment. Other than associated enterprise, you have to see the date on which the payment is made or 60 days from the date of invoice issued by the supplier. So in
Ma'am,
short, if you see, yes,
Swapnil is waiting, ma'am.
yes, who is waiting, you said?
Swapnil, ma'am.
I can't see anyone as of now in the screen who is waiting.
Okay, ma'am.
And student, a humble request to you all, since the session starts at 10 o'clock, I request you all to join in the room at 10 o'clock, because in between the session gets disturbed. Okay, as of now, I can't see anyone waiting, so let me move ahead with the session. Okay, so in short, we have seen time of supply in case of goods as well in case of services. In goods, under forward charge, it is earlier of three dates, that is invoice date or the due date on which the invoice is to be issued, or the date of payment, whichever is earlier. In case of reverse charge, the time of supply is earlier of date of receipt of goods, date of payment, or 31st date from the invoice date, or you can say 30 days, the date immediately following the 30 days, which becomes the 31st date. Next, for services under forward charge, it is in if the, you have to check whether the invoice is issued within the due date. If invoice is issued within the prescribed period or due date, the time of supply will be the invoice date of payment, whichever is earlier. If invoice is not issued within the due date, the time of supply will be the service date, that is date of providing the service, or payment date, whichever is earlier. In case of reverse charge for services, the time of supply will be earlier of payment date or 61st date from invoice date. That is the date immediately following 60 days from invoice date, which becomes your 61st date. Next, time of supply of vouchers for goods and services, it is the same, students, there is no difference. Date of issue of voucher if the supply is identifiable at that point, or date of redemption of voucher in all other cases. In residuary clause, which means that in case the provision under section 12 subsection 2 3 4 is not applicable, then you're going to apply this section. In case where a periodical return has to be filed, the date on which such return is to be filed, or in all other cases, the date on which the GST payment is made, that is CGST, SGST, IGST, UTGST payment is made. Next, addition and value, the time of supply in case of addition and value will be the date on which supplier receives such addition and value, just addition and value and not the normal consideration. So section 31 talks about the time limit or the due date of issuing the invoice in case of goods as well as in case of services. And this particular section is important for us in case of forward charge. So let us see, if it is goods and goods involves supply, involves movement, then the time limit to issue the invoice or the due date to issue the invoice is the date when the goods are removed. So removal of goods for supply to the recipient. If supply does not involve movement, then making available of goods, the date in which you're making available the goods to the recipient, which means the date of delivery. In case of services, if it is a bank, financial institution, non-banking financial institution, then it is 45 days from the provision of service. Suppose you're providing the service today, after 45 days, it is the due date to issue the invoice. And in all other normal cases, if it is not a bank, financial institution, or non-banking financial institution, then it is 30 days from the provision of service. So this was a quick revision of section 12 and section 13 of CGST Act. Now let us move ahead to the problems on time of supply. So yesterday we had completed the 7th problem. Today let us begin with the problem number 8. Investigation shows that ABC and company carried out services of cleaning and repairs of tanks in an apartment complex for which the apartment owner association showed a payment in cash on 4th April to them against work of this description. The dates of the work are not clear from the records of ABC and Company, and ABC and Company have not issued invoice or entered the payment in their books of accounts. So we need to know what is the time of supply. Students, in this particular problem, there is no clarity against what is the date of issue of invoice or the date on which the payment is being made. So there is no, or the date of providing the service, the date on which the payment is made is clear, that is the 4th April. But other things like the date of issue of invoice or the date when the particular service has been provided is not clear. So when we were going through the revision, we came across a thing that suppose if the date, suppose you're not able to ascertain the date of invoice or the date of provision of service, then in that case it will be the date in which the recipient is recording the payment in the books of accounts. So let us just go through the solution. The time of supply cannot be determined under the clause A and B of section 3 subsection 2. So section 13 subsection 2 talks about forward charge in case of services. Okay, section A, clause A talks about that suppose if the invoice is issued within the prescribed time, and B talks about suppose the invoice is not issued within the prescribed time. So as neither the invoice has been issued nor the date of provision of service is available, as also the date of receipt of payment in the books of the supplier is also not available, therefore the time of supply will be determined as per the clause C of section 13 subsection 2. That is the date on which the recipient of service shows the receipt of service in the books of accounts. So thus time of supply will be 4th April, that is the date on which the apartment owner association records the receipt of service in the books of accounts. So are you able to relate this to the clause that we have revised? So just going back to the particular slide where we revised this is, students just pay attention to the right hand side. In case of services, date if the invoice is issued within the prescribed time, but in that particular problem we are not aware about the date of invoice, so this will not apply. If the invoice is not issued within the prescribed time, we have to see the date of supply of service. But student, the date of provision of service also is not clear in the problem. So if these two provisions are not applicable, then you have to see the date on which the supplier receives the payment. That will be the date that we have to assume it as the time of supply in case of services. This will apply only if this two, that is clause A and clause B under section 13 is not applicable. Therefore, date on which the supplier receives the payment, it is 4th April, students. So 4th April will be the time of supply in respect of this particular problem. So students, is this particular problem clear? Yes, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Students, overall, if you'll go to see, there are only 3 dates. Either the date of issue of invoice. Now, you'll know what is the meaning of date of issue of invoice, the date when the invoice has been issued. Second, the date of payment. Date of payment will be either the date on which the amount is credited or debited in the bank account, or the date on which the entry of such payment is made in the books of accounts, whichever is earlier. And one more is the date of provision of service. The date of provision of service means the date on which actually the service has been provided or actually the service has been supplied. So there are only 3 dates in which you need to differentiate. Next, let us move ahead to problem number 9. Determine the time of supply from the given information, assuming that the services are being supplied is taxable under reverse charge. So first of all, it is services. So section 13 will be applicable, and reverse charge. So section 13 subsection 3 will be applicable in case of reverse charge. So, and what happens in reverse charge? The recipient is liable to pay tax. So you have to look from the angle of the recipient. So May 4, what is happening? May 4, the supplier of service issues invoice for the services provided. There is a dispute about the amount payable and the payment is delayed. August 21st, the payment made to the supplier of service. So August 4th, the invoice has been issued, and August 21st, the payment is made to the supplier. So what is the time of supply? Students, we have seen in the provision under section 13 subsection 3 that under reverse charge for services, the time of supply will be the earlier of 2 dates. What are the earlier of 2 dates? Either it is the date of payment or the date immediately following 60 days from the issue of invoice. So now the date of payment is August 21st, and 60 days from the date of issue of invoice, that is May 4. May 4 is the date of issue of invoice. From that, if you take 60 days, so it becomes July 4th. July 3 and the 61st day becomes July 4. So answer will be here July 4 will be the time of supply, being the earlier of two stipulated dates, namely date of payment and date immediately following 60 days since issue of invoice. So from the date when the invoice is issued, you have to calculate 60 days, and the 61st day will be the date, that is the time of supply. So is problem number 9 clear, students? Yes, students? So which is this provision that we have applied is, here students, pay attention here. Time of supply of goods and services under reverse charge. See the right hand side. Other than associated enterprise, earlier of the following dates, the date on which the payment is made, or 60 days from the date of invoice issued by the supplier. So we have applied this particular provision. Is this clear, students? Problem number 9.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, students? Students, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Understood, ma'am.
Okay. Next. Let us move ahead to problem number 10. Best Hospitality Services enters into agreement with Drive Marketing Limited, by which Drive Marketing Limited markets best hospitality services, hotel rooms, and sells coupon vouchers which are redeemable for a discount against stay in the hotel. So what is this particular problem telling us? That there are best hospitality services. This particular company is selling the coupons which can be redeemed against the stay in the hotel. So when it is coupons or vouchers, what is the time of supply, students? Students,
Ma'am,
your best hospitality services is selling coupons or vouchers which can be redeemed against the stay in the hotel. So tell me, students, in case of vouchers, what is the time of supply?
ma'am, if it is identifiable, then the date of issue will be the voucher entry, and then if it is not identifiable, the voucher entry will be the date of redemption of that such voucher, ma'am.
Very good. So in this particular problem, as the supply against which the voucher will be redeemed is identifiable, we know that the voucher can be used only for the stay in the hotel and nothing else. So we know that the supply against which the voucher will be redeemed is identifiable. Therefore, the time of supply of vouchers will be its date of issue. So time of supply will be the date on which Best Hospitality Services will be selling the coupons. Is this clear, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay. Now let us move ahead to problem number 11. Determine the time of supply in the following cases, assuming the GST is payable under reverse charge. So first, they are given us multiple cases, that is totally 6 cases are there, in which we have to identify the time of supply under reverse charge, students. Once again, I'm repeating, against reverse charge. Now they are given, the first thing is the date of receipt of goods, the date of payment of goods, the date of issue of invoice by the supplier of goods. Now if it is goods, which is the section we are going to apply? Section 12, subsection 3. So first, let me tell you, students, first you will need to remember the provision. The provision of time of supply for reverse charge for goods is earlier of 3 dates. Which are the earlier of 3 dates? That is the date of receipt of goods, the date of payment, and or 30 days from the date of issue of invoice by the supplier. So just whatever I have revised, I'll just show you the provision once again. You can see on my left hand side, that is time of supply under reverse charge for goods is earliest of the following: the date of receipt of goods, the date on which payment is made, or 30 days from the date of invoice issued by the supplier. That means the 31st date. So So all these three dates you need to compare. Now, whichever date is falling earlier, that will be the date on which we have to consider it as a time of supply. Now, what is the meaning of date of receipt of goods? Means the date on which the goods are received by the recipient. Why I'm telling by the recipient? Because again, it is reverse charge. The date on which payment is made. Now, since it is from the angle of recipient, what is the meaning of date of payment made? Either it can be the date on which the payment is being debited from the bank of account of the recipient, or the date on which the payment is entered in the books of account. So whichever two dates are falls earlier, that will be the date of payment. And 31st day from the date of issue of invoice, or 30 days from the date of invoice issue. That is immediately following 30 days. So let us see the solution. First, let us see the problem. So first particular case is on July 1st. On July 1st, the goods are being received. On August 10th, the recipient, the date of payment is made by the recipient of goods on August 10th. And on June 29, the invoice is being issued by the supplier of goods. So can anyone tell me which are the three dates that you are going to compare? So, and what is going to be the time of supply? Students, again, I'm repeating, July 1st, goods are being received. 10th August, the payment is being made, and the invoice is issued on June 29. So the third date that we need to compare is 30 days from the date immediately following the date of issue of invoice. So June 29, 30 days from June 29 will be July 29. And July 29, the next day after July 29 is what? 30th July. So you need to compare July 1st, you need to compare August 10th and July 30th. Whichever date falls earlier, that will be the time of supply in case of goods under reverse charge. So can you tell me in this particular case, what is going to be the time of supply?
July 1st, ma'am.
July 1st.
Okay, very good. So the next cases also are identical cases. So for this, what is the working that we need to do? First, we need to prepare one more column stating when does the date after 30 days from the date of issue of supplier of goods arises. So in our solution, first, we are just going to add one more column here. This is my answer. In this, we are going to add a date immediately following 30 days from the date of invoice. So first we solve that, and then it is very easy to compare the three dates which I have highlighted. Just compare the three dates, whichever falls earlier, that will be the time of supply in case of goods. So quickly, first what we will do, for all the cases, we will calculate the 31st date. So in case of June 29, what is the 31st date? What is the 31st day after June 29?
Ma'am, July 30th.
July 30th. Okay, now June 29, again it is July 30th. June 1st,
July 2.
July 2nd. Very good. June 29, June 29. What is the, okay, July 30th.
July
And June 29, again July 30th. So what, okay, very good. So what we have done in our solution is, we have just added one more column so that it becomes very easy to compare. So whatever answers as given by all are the correct answers. So we have written July 30th, July 30th, July 30th, June 2nd, July 30th, and July 30th. Okay. Now, what is our next step? Our next step is only to compare these three dates. Okay, these three dates, and then we get the time of supply of goods in case of reverse charge. So under reverse charge, only three dates you're going to compare: date of receipt of goods, date of payment, and date immediately following 30 days from the date of issue of invoice. So So we're just going to ignore this column number 3. Column number 3 was helpful only to find out 30 days from the date of issue of invoice. Okay, so the question as it is, I have written it here, students. Okay, so now in case 2, tell me what is the time of supply. Can anyone tell me in case 2 what is the time of supply? You need to compare July 1st, June 25th, and July 30th. What is the time of supply in this case?
June 25th.
June 25.
25th June. So see, the solution 2 says that the last column is the final answer. June 25th is the time of supply. Very good, students. Next, third case, July 1st. Part payment was made on June 30th and the balance was made on July 20th. And the date of issue of invoice is June 29. So how are you supposed to solve this, students? Part payment is made on June 30 and the balance is made on July 20th. So for that part payment, first you need to see what is the time of supply, and then remaining for the balance you need to see what is the time of supply. So for the first part payment, you need to compare July 1st, June 30th and July 30. So what is the earlier of 3 dates?
June 30.
June
It
30.
is June 30, correct? So June 30, see the solution. June 30 for part payment made. Okay, and for the remaining payment, let us see. Remaining payment July 1st, July 20th and July 30. So which is the earlier of 3 dates?
July 1st.
July 1st.
Very good. So July 1st. So your solution will be June 30 for the part payment made and June 1st for the balance amount. So is case number 3 clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay, good. Next, let us go to case number 4. Here they're telling July 5 is the date of receipt of goods and the date of payment by the recipient of goods is the payment is entered in the books of accounts on June 28 and payment is debited in the recipient's bank account on June 30. Students, I had while revising, I told you date of payment is nothing but earlier of 2 dates. That is either the date on which the amount is debited in the accounts of the recipient or the date on which the payment is entered in the books of accounts of the recipient. Whichever is earlier will be the date of payment. So in this particular case, which is earlier, date of entry in the books or date of debit in the bank account?
Ma'am, entry
June
in the
28, entry in the book. So what are you going to consider the date of payment?
June 28.
Okay, so you need to simply compare July 5th, June 28th and 2nd July. So among these 3 dates, which is the date that is earlier? So let us see the fourth solution, solution to fourth case, July 5th. Okay, then you need to compare June 28th and June 1st. Oh, sorry, July 2nd. Sorry, students. You need to compare July 5th, June 28th, and July 2nd. So among these 3 dates, which is the date that is earlier?
June 28.
June 28. So June 28 will be the time of supply. That is the payment in which the payment that is when payment is entered in the books of accounts of the recipient. Is this clear, students? Is case number 4 clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So case number 5, what are they asking us? This is the question. July 1st, the goods are received. Now, payment is entered in the books of accounts on June 30th and debited in the recipient's bank account on June 26th. So in this case, what is the final date of payment we are going to consider? Which date we are going to consider as date of payment?
Ma'am,
Can anyone tell me? June
26.
26. So July 1st is the date of receipt of goods. June 26th is the date of payment, and July 30th will be the 30 days immediately following from the date of issue of invoice. So among these three, what is the earlier date? July 1st, 26th June, or July 30th? Among these three dates, which is the earlier date?
June 26th.
June 26.
So June 26 will be the time of supply in respect of case number 5. Next, the last case, August 1st, 10th August, June 29 is the date of issue of invoice, but we have to see 30 days, the date immediately following 30 days from the issue of invoice. So we have to compare August 1st, August 10th, and July 30th. So what is going to be the time of supply in the sixth case?
Ma'am, July 30th.
So let us see the solution. Yes, it is July 30th. That is the 31st day from the issuance of invoice, or date immediately following 30 days from the issue of invoice. So is problem number 11 clear to all students? Yes, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let us move ahead to problem number 12. Kabira Industries Limited engaged the services of a transporter of road transport of a consignment on 17th June and made an advance payment for the transport on the same date, that is 17th June. However, the consignment could not be sent immediately on the account of a strike in the factory, and instead it was sent on 20th July. Invoice was received from the transporter on 22nd July. What is the time of supply of the transporter service? And they are telling, note that the transporter service is taxed under reverse charge basis. So first of all, we have to see the provision of not forward charge but reverse charge. Second thing, it is in respect of services. Therefore, we need to apply which provision? We need to apply the provision of services taxable under reverse charge. So what is the time of supply of services taxable under reverse charge? It is earlier of two dates. What are those two dates? Date of payment and 61st date from the date of issue of invoice. Now, what is the date of payment, students? The date of payment is 17th June. Okay. And what is the date of issue of invoice? So here the invoice was received on 22nd July. So 31st, so what falls earlier? The date of payment is 17 June and 61st date from the date of issue of invoice. So obviously, if the invoice is issued on 22nd July, 61st day from that date will again fall much ahead than June 17th. So which is earlier, students? We need not even calculate 61 days, because if the invoice only is issued in July, we know that 61st day will be much ahead than 17th June. So obviously 17th June will be the time of supply. So let us see the solution. Time of supply of services taxable under reverse charge is earlier of two dates. Date of payment, which is 17 June, and 61st date from the date of issue of invoice. The invoice was received by the transporter on 22nd July. So obviously, if we calculate 61 days also, it is going to be much ahead than 17th June. So in this case, the date of payment precedes 61 days from the date of issue of invoice by the supplier of service. Hence, the date of payment, that is 17 June, will be treated as time of supply. So students, is problem number 12 clear? Yes, students? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
So which provision did we apply? Just see towards your right hand side, this particular, other than associated enterprise, it's earlier of the following, that is the date on which payment is made, or 60 days from the date of issue of invoice. Now if the invoice only issued on 22nd July and this is 17th, it was 17th June, then obviously June is preceding the date of issue of invoice itself. Therefore the time of supply will be 17th June. Let us move ahead to problem number 13. Raju Private Limited receives the order and advance payment on 5th January for carrying out architectural design job. It delivers the design on 23rd April. By oversight, no invoice is issued at that point, and it is issued much later after the expiry of the prescribed period of issue of invoice. So students, they are asking us time of supply of services. Now this is a forward charge because nothing is mentioned that whether it is covered under reverse charge. So if the problem is silent, then you have to always consider it as a forward charge. Now under forward charge for services, what are the provisions? First, we need to see whether the invoice is issued within the prescribed time. Here they are clearly mentioning that the invoice is issued much later than the due date of issuing the invoice. So it is not issued within the prescribed time. Then the second clause, that is section 13 subsection 2 clause B, says that if the invoice is not issued within the prescribed time, the time of supply will be the earlier of two dates. That is the date on which the services are provided or the date on which the payment is received, whichever is earlier. So let us see in this case what is earlier. Payment is received on 5th of January and the services is been delivered on 23rd April. So the date of providing the service is 23rd April and the date of payment is 5th January. So what is going to be your time of supply, students? Which is the earlier date?
5th
Yes.
January.
So very good. Let us see our solution. Since the invoice has not been issued within the prescribed period of time, time of supply of services will be the earlier of the following two dates as per section 13 subsection 2 clause B. That you have to compare date of providing the service or date of receipt of payment. The payment was received on January 5th and the services were provided on 23rd April. Therefore, the date of payment, that is 5th January, is the time of supply of services in this case. So students, is problem number 13 clear to you all? I'll just show you which particular provisions we applied. So students, we applied time of supply of services under forward charge. Just look into your right hand side. In case of services, you have to apply this particular clause A only if the invoice is issued within the prescribed period. Since it is not issued within the prescribed period, you have to apply this particular provision under clause B, which says that date of provision of service or date of payment, whichever is earlier, will be your time of supply. So students, is problem number 13 clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let us move ahead to problem number 14. Investigation shows that 150 cartons of ceramic capacitors were dispatched on 2nd August, but no invoice was made and the cartons were not entered in the accounts. There was no evidence of receipt of payment. So what is happening is, here there is no date of issue of invoice, there is no date of entry in the books, there is no evidence of any payment of account, and they are asking us what is the time of supply. So students, we know that when no information is given, the time of supply will be, in case of goods, it is the date of issue of invoice or the date on which the invoice ought to be issued under section 31, or the date of payment, whichever is earlier. One thing is cartoons, it is, so therefore it is goods. Okay, and since no information against reverse charge is given, that means it is a forward charge. Now just let me quickly show you time of supply under forward charge. See the left hand side, it is, in case of goods, it is earliest of the following dates: date of issue of invoice by the supplier or the last date on which he is required to issue the invoice. So what is the due date up to which he is required to issue invoice? We have to see section 31, which says that if there is a removal of goods, the date on which if there is a movement of goods, so the date on which the goods are being removed, and if there is no movement of goods, the date on which it is to be delivered will be the date of issue of invoice, or the date on which the payment is received, whichever is earlier. Now, in this particular problem, the cartoons were dispatched on 2nd August. So the removal of goods is on 2nd August. So what will be the date on which the supplier is supposed to issue the invoice? It is 2nd August. So date of issue of invoice, that is 2nd August, or the date of payment, receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Now, date of receipt of payment is not available. Therefore, 2nd August itself will be the time of supply. Let us just go through the solution. A registered person, excluding composition supplier, has to pay GST on outward supply of goods at the time of supply, as per section 12 subsection 2 clause A. That is the date of issue of invoice, or the last date on which invoice ought to have been issued under section 31. Section 31 says the due date in which the invoice has to be issued. You have to see movement of goods or no movement of goods. If movement of goods, the goods in which the date in which the goods are removed, and in all other cases the date of delivery. So in this case, since the invoice has not been issued, the time of supply will be the last date on which the invoice is required to be issued. So the invoice for the supply of goods must be issued on or before the dispatch of goods, that is on 2nd August. Therefore, the time of supply of goods will be 2nd August, that is the date when the invoice should have been issued. So is problem number 14 clear, students? Yes, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let us move ahead to problem number 15. Sodexo meal coupons are sold by a company on 9th August for being distributed to employees of the said company. So the date of issue of coupons is 9th August. The coupons are valid for 6 months and can be used against purchase of any food item, students. It is not specified this particular food item you can redeem the coupon. It can be redeemed against purchase of food items. The employees use them in various stores for purchase of various edible items on different dates throughout the 6 months. What is the date of supply in case of these coupons? Students, just to summarize the question, 9th August the coupons were distributed, okay, were issued, and that coupon can be redeemed only against food items, but it can be any food items, and that coupon is valid only for 6 months. It can be redeemed in any particular food store for 6 months, up to a period of 6 months, on the purchase of any food item. So can anyone tell me what is the time of supply in respect of this particular problem? They have not specified the particular food item against which it can be redeemed. So can anyone tell me what is the time of supply?
Ma'am, since the against which the food item can be is not identifiable, so it will be on the date on which the such coupon will be redeemable.
Okay, very good. She's absolutely told the correct answer. So as the coupons can be used for a variety of food items which are taxed under different rates, we don't know which food item is that particular employee going to redeem against. So the supply cannot be identifiable at that point of purchase of the coupons. Therefore, time of supply of coupons is the date of redemption. As per which section? Section 12 subsection 4. Why I'm telling section 12? Because it is a food item, it is a goods. So section 12 and subsection 4 talks about vouchers exchangeable for goods. Therefore, section 12 subsection 4. So is problem number 15 clear, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, let us move ahead to the last problem under time of supply. Okay, then from our next class onwards, we will see the next things that we have to cover under this particular module. Okay, a firm of advocates issues invoices for services to ABC Limited on 17th Feb. So 17th Feb is the date of issue of invoice. The payment is contested by ABC Limited on the ground that on account of negligence of the firm, the company's case was dismissed by the court for non-appearance, which necessitated further appearance for which the firm is billing the company. The dispute drags and finally payment is made on 3rd November. Identify the time of supply of legal services. Note, legal services are taxable under reverse charge. So very simple, students. Again, it is reverse charge. It is for services. If it is services, time of supply, which provision, which section number? Section number 13. If it is for reverse charge, then section 13, subsection 3. So as per time of supply of services under reverse charge, what is the provision? We have to check earlier of two dates. That is date of payment or 60th, the date immediately following 60 days from the date of issue of invoice, which is the 61st day. So tell me students, the date of payment is, finally the payment was made on 3rd April. 3rd November. So 3rd November is the date of payment. Now, the invoice was issued on 17th Feb. So what is the 61st day from the date of issue of invoice if you calculate from 17th Feb, students? So it will be 19th April. So let us see the solution. Time of supply of services taxable under reverse charge is the earlier of following two dates as per section 13 subsection 3. That is date of payment, which is 3rd November, and 31st day from the date of issue of invoice, that is 19th April. So can you all tell me students, what is the time of supply in this particular problem? Yes students?
Ma'am, date of issue, since it is earliest.
Date of issue, no, 61st day from the date of issue. Date of issue of invoice is 17th Feb. But the provision says you have to take 61st day from the date of issue of invoice, which is 19th April. So in this case, the date of payment comes subsequent to the 61st day from the date of issue of invoice by the supplier of service. Therefore, 61st day from the supplier's invoice has to be taken as the time of supply. So 19th April is your time of supply. So is this particular problem clear? So again, moving ahead to the provision under reverse charge in case of services other than associated enterprise. See on the right hand side, it is the date on which the payment is made or 60 days from the date of issue of invoice by the supplier. Compare these two dates, whichever is earlier. So this particular provision we have applied in the 16th problem and we have got the answer as 19th April. So is problem number 16 clear, students? Yes
Yes,
students?
ma'am.
Okay, so by this we have completed sums on time of supply. Thank you so much, students.